I'm doing great, man. I'm just having a blast with all of the different things that we can do in Restream.io. We were having a little bit of fun, but I'm great. How about yourself?
Pretty good. I'm psyched about this background. This background looks mint. I tell you what, how about we make a fool of ourselves today and make some predictions about
That's
what's going to
great.
happen with AI in marketing. I hope that no one clips this out and comes back to us a year later and it was like, you guys got this totally wrong. But I think we got some pretty good ideas about what's going to happen in the near term future
Hmm.
for marketers and business owners who want to get more customers and turn strangers into customers with AI. So I tell you what, I've got your notes in front of me here. I see your first point, and I was like, man, that this is not a prediction. This is going to happen. Talk us through what is your first prediction for AI in marketing?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that we're going to be doing six, right? Like three each. So top
Yep.
six prediction, we're going to be doing three each. All right, cool. So I think that one of the things that's going to happen, I think that we touched base a little bit upon on our last episode, our first episode actually, and this is something that you brought up, which was the by human side of things, right? Like, and this is something that I've heard someone say something like this, but right now we have the buy local side of things, right? Like buy local, buy from your country, buy from here, buy from there. The buy human is going to be something that I think is going to be more and more top of mind. Like what I mean is that there will be some additional value to the fact that something has been made or done or created by a human versus by a machine, by AI, right? It's the typical. Right now we have it, right? Like the I was going around Buenos Aires last weekend, and I was in this really, I would say, really typical part of downtown Buenos Aires, which is really touristy and whatnot. And we were going through these houses with a lot of antiques, right? And you were buying things that back in the day they would cost like maybe a couple dollars, and you were buying them for maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And the reality and the reason behind those things is because there was a lot of work. There was a lot of work involved in those things, like a tea set or something like that you could buy that belonged to somebody in Argentina for, I don't know, 1920, right? In 1920, and now we got it, and now it's really expensive. It's like 10 times more expensive or 100 times more expensive than it was back in 1920. And the reason behind it is, again, because it has a lot of work. And we tend to value that, right? Like timepieces versus watches. That's why Rolex is worth like 10, 15, $20,000 versus a Chinese uh, Casio or whatever. That's because there's a lot of work around them. So I think that the by human, or the thing that the fact that somebody has been made or something has been made by a human being, that will have more and more value as we go through. So that's prediction number one.
100%. This leads into my first prediction. And this is something that we actually talk about. I've got the link in front of me here. This is something that we actually talk about in the Q3 What's Working Now in AI and Marketing report, which, if you want to go and get yourself a copy, you can go to www.learnmarketingai.com/report, and we'll send you a free copy of this. This is something that I touched on a lot in the report when I was writing out this section. Artificial intelligent created content is going to become everywhere. So you and I both know someone who is running an ad, and they used AI to kind of narrate it in their own voice, and it kind of sounds pretty damn close to being like them. And they actually say in the ad, like, "This isn't even my voice; an AI robot is talking right now." I have seen people doing one particular example that jumps to mind is Craig Ballantyne. He had an ad running which was a deep fake, but it was clearly a deep fake. It was like him tackling a bear. And when you see that sort of stuff in today's environment, you're like, oh, that's a robot. But as people start to do this really badly, it's going to be like, have you ever seen an ad for something on Instagram and you're like, oh, that looks cool and interesting, and then you go and buy it and it's like tiny and crap?
Yes,
And
a
then
lot.
immediately, whenever you see an ad for any e-commerce product again in the future, you're like, that's probably shit.
Hmm.
Like that
Yes.
thing probably, it just ruins your experience of e-commerce shopping for good. So I feel like the same thing is going to happen. This is going to be one of the downfalls of AI, is that it's really in the short term going to torpedo consumer trust, just like what we saw in the last couple of years, people posting stuff that was potentially fake news, and the fact that people said it was fake news, and then there was disagreements about it. Now no one believes anything that's said online. And just like there's been bad e-commerce products that have been promoted on social media, and now no one trusts when they, even if it's an amazing e-commerce product, the fact that you've seen something before that was crap, it just destroys your trust. So I really feel like consumer trust is going to be absolutely torpedoed in the very near future. Content, people are going to view it through a very, I'm not sure if I should say cynical or skeptical, but they're not going to be like, oh, this must be great, like they would have been 4 or 5 years ago before all this sort of stuff started to happen. And I feel like the same thing is going to be said of products. There are going to be products that will be made with the help of artificial intelligence that will be crap. There will be sales pages written with the help of artificial intelligence that will be crap because people do not know how to use this yet. And this affects everyone. So if you're not using artificial intelligence in your business, or if you're not making, like e-commerce products that are potentially, like questionable, I don't know how I would describe that, but the fact that there are people who are making bad content and the fact that there are people who are making questionable e-commerce products means that your product is kind of lumped in with theirs in the consumer's mind. So my first prediction is consumer sentiment is going to like torpedo. Trust is going to go way down.
Yeah, and the question becomes, how do we get the trust back, right? That's the question. How do we get the trust back? Yeah, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So do you want to go into your next one? I think the next one is this a one that I need to share the graphic?
Yes, well, I want to answer that question because you said the question is how do we stop that from happening?
Yeah,
I think the answer is you don't ever produce crap content. So I've been talking to people about this recently. Who was it I was talking to? One of my clients. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. And they had an email campaign, and one of the emails was a low effort email for what is like the nicest way that I can say
right.
how they wrote it. Like it just wasn't very good. And I said, listen, every single time you send an email to your list, you're either training them to see your name pop up in their inbox and go, this is going to be awesome. Or you're training them to see your name in their inbox and go, that's probably crap. And the same thing is true with your marketing now. Like you just cannot afford to produce something that's questionable or something that's not very valuable or not worth people's time to watch or read or listen to. You just can't afford to do that.
Right. Just because you can do more stuff at a higher volume and a higher speed doesn't mean that it should be bad. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the whole, like being an expert authority, being relatable to your consumer. If you get their attention, do something with it, like provide them with an interesting insight or something that'll entertain them or educate them or motivate. Like just don't waste your consumers' attention because as people's trust goes down, they're not going to give you as many chances as they would have.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. I think that one of the things that we need to have in mind is exactly that. It's just because you have the ability to do a lot more with tools like ChatGPT and others doesn't mean that you should squander that opportunity. Which takes me, if you don't mind, to my next contribution to this little show that we have, which is exactly that. It's like one of the things that we strive to do at Learn Marketing AI is to save you time, right? Help you become a better marketer, and save you time from the perspective of, all right, now you have all of this time that you can dedicate yourself to do high level work. Now the question is, what do you dedicate that extra time that you have to or towards, right? And I think that more and more time, this is like, I've heard Jeff Bezos said once that he only makes one decision per quarter, right? That's the goal. Like the goal of his goal is to make one decision per quarter. That's it. That's a big decision to make, right? And the implications of that decision might ripple and impact the lives of millions of people, right? I think it was Elon Musk said in an interview that right now his minute of high level thinking is worth around $5 million per minute. of high level thinking, right? So he cannot afford, every time that he's squandering that time, he's losing his company $5 million a minute, right? So if you think about it, the leverage comes with a price, right? The more leverage you have, the more of an impact you can have, but it also comes with a price. So our goal with as marketers will be to sit down and decide where to put our eggs in which basket, because now content is going to be easier, email is going to be easier, copy is going to be easier, ads are going to be easier. There's like AI features or things popping up everywhere. I just saw Zapier with an AI thing. You just input what you need and then it will create this app for you, right? So things are becoming easier and easier. The same with Kajabi. I think that you just input what type of course you want, and boom, Kajabi will create the outline for you. But I think that one of our more and more important roles as marketers is to definitely decide or work towards what will really move the needle, right? And that's something that AI cannot do for you. That's something that you need to sit down and actually be strategic with your thinking now more than ever, so that you put all of this leverage that you have by using these tools, which is like 100 times the leverage that we used to have like 10 years ago, right? Because right now you can have an army of a small army of marketers working for you. Where do you put all of that energy towards, right? So that's what I think that's going to be kind of the next frontier of the next battlefront, if you would, on the marketing side of things, on the business owner side of things, but on the marketing side of things specifically, like what are you, how are you allocating those new resources that you have, that you just found, right? That you just have. It's like, all right, you used to do this manually, now you can automate it. What do you do? How do you dedicate that rest of your time? What are the right activities for you to dedicate that? And, Learn Marketing AI is kind of our goal, our hub to help you make those decisions.
So here's a question based on that then. If it's not enough to kind of just have the skill of, I know how to write a really good sales page, and then, for example, I know how to put together a campaign that's really good. If it's not enough to have that, and if it's not enough to be able to do that much faster with AI, and if you're saying like, I've frozen. What's wrong with me?
Oh, you're good. I can hear you.
I'm good. Oh,
Yeah.
my screen, I've frozen. That's so
I
weird.
got you. You're good. Keep going.
All right.
Nothing's
So
happening. Nothing's happening.
So if the old way was, I know how to put together a really good campaign, and now the new way is I know how to put together a really good campaign faster with artificial intelligence, and then the next step is being able to make those strategic decisions around like, is this the right type of campaign? Is there a way that I can change the nature of this campaign to make it work better? How does someone like learn that high level strategic thinking? Like obviously Bezos must be freakishly good at making decisions. If he makes one a quarter and then he's able to drive the company, how do you reckon someone actually learns to get better at that?
I think that it has to do with experience, like going through a lot of crappy decisions, and then you need to. It's addition by subtraction, right? It's like you need to be doing less, not more. You need to be doing less. Now, why do you subtract? That's the question. How do you subtract that? That's what you need to ask yourself every single day. Like, for example, joining a community can help out, because joining a community where other marketers and other entrepreneurs are having 10 times the results that you have, everyone has the same amount of time, right? It's about doing less and less and less. You shouldn't be policing your comments on social media. You shouldn't, right? You shouldn't be doing all of those things that don't move the needle, right? A really simple exercise is, okay, what moved the needle last week and last month? And what moved the needle the month before and the month before and the month before? Do more of that, right? Do more of that. And now you have these tools that can help you do more of those things. So I think that it's addition by subtraction. It's an exercise of doing less while having more leverage, because now we have all of these tools at our disposal. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
what do you think about, this is something that I used to do when I was a young marketer, like 10 years ago. I used to expose myself to as many different types of marketing as possible. So even though I had no interest in it, I'd look at how do people market e-commerce products? How do people try and sell high-end stuff? How do people try and do a webinar? How do people try and do a live event? And I
Hmm.
would always sit back and like, if I saw a campaign, I would go through it myself, like a live event, or if there was an e-commerce product, I'd check out all the emails around it. And I would ask myself, how would I do this differently if I had to do this myself?
Hmm.
What do I like about what it is that they're doing? How could I model that for the sort of stuff that I'm doing? What do I not like? What do I think they're doing poorly? Do you think that's a valuable exercise for people
I
to?
think so. I think so. I think there's also like some guidelines that I'm a big modeler. Like I'm a big modeler of people that, like for example, if I take a look at a campaign that they did for an event, I try to replicate it, right? I try to replicate it because clearly it worked and it keeps on working for that, right? So I'm a big believer in modeling, and then you can reinvent. But yeah, that's definitely a good exercise. Definitely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Should we move on?
Let's do it.
What are we up to prediction 3?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. This is where I get to pull out my slide. Can I be
All right,
honest?
let me do that. Let me do that for you.
Can I tell
Real
you a
quick.
secret?
What's that?
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I was actually a little bit nervous about whether or not I should share this slide
Oh wow.
because I don't want to intimidate people with my amazing graphic design skills. I
All
don't
right.
want to be like,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't want
pretty.
to
It's
appear to
pretty.
be.
It's pretty good. Let me tell you. I was like, dude, who did this? Like, yeah. All right. So let me share. You guys will see in a second. All right. So hold on. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. There
Please
we go.
try not to view me as some kind of like unreachable, like design god.
Right.
Here's my second prediction. So people are going to be marketers, pretty much all professionals, really. I think they're going to go through a phase of disillusionment about artificial intelligence. I feel like in the coming months, maybe not in the next 6 months, but like definitely next year, there's going to be some discussion around like artificial intelligence isn't all it was cracked up to be. Artificial intelligence is dumb. Maybe there's going to be a bunch of companies who, just like when you see a bad Instagram ad and it ruins consumer sentiment, there's going to be a bunch of bad artificial intelligence apps that
Hmm.
ruin consumer sentiment. But here's what I see happening, and this has happened many times in the past. The red line is the perceived or the kind of actual utility of a particular technology. So let's compare artificial intelligence to digital cameras, which is what actually happened. So if
Hmm.
we start down the bottom left of this graph, there's like life before the breakthrough happened. There's work going on. People are trying to figure out like how do we get a digital camera to work so we don't have to use this stupid film stuff and develop it and all those sorts of things. How do we get an artificial intelligence bot to do stuff for us? And then there's the breakthrough, which for the artificial intelligence community, let's just call it OpenAI's ChatGPT. Like it comes out of nowhere, just like the digital camera kind of came out of nowhere, and it was an overnight like holy smokes. But it had been in development for a long time, so it sort of it like takes 10 years to become an overnight breakthrough, for want of a
Hmm.
better term. So this breakthrough happens, and everyone looks at it. They look at ChatGPT. They look at this digital camera, which might have been like the size of a bar fridge, and it needed like 9 batteries, and it could print like a 9 pixel photo without needing to use film. And they're like, "Wow, look at that!" And then kind of reality sets in, and
Hmm.
people realize this is actually quite. Yeah, it's not as good as what we used to use before.
Hmm.
So maybe things like ChatGPT have limitations because it does have quite a steep learning curve to learn how to get the absolute most out of it. It does have limitations in that it was trained on data from September 2021, if I recall correctly. It's got limitations because you can only do 25 prompts every 3 hours on the GPT-4 version. And so hype, it sort of goes up after the breakthrough. So you'll see here there's the utility, which is the red line, and then hype sort of trails it. And
Hmm.
this is what's called a negative feedback loop. So if you looked at how does your body manage blood sugar levels, it's on a negative feedback loop like this. Like after something happens, your body goes, "Holy smokes, blood sugar's too high. We got to bring it down." This is the same way that the Earth kind of modulates its carbon dioxide levels. This is like a normal thing to see. So you'll notice here that the hype actually goes below where it was before the breakthrough happened. Interestingly enough. which means that people will actually think like AI is stupid, not like, oh, AI is coming, we don't understand a whole bunch about it. They'll actually be resistant to it. But if you look at the utility has not dropped down anywhere near as low as the hype. So we're
Mm.
going to go through a phase where there's bad apps, and people will put, we've said this before, people will put artificial intelligence on their website homepage, even though it's not artificial intelligence. People will make apps that just suck. There'll be problems with data. There'll be problems with, like ChatGPT at some point might break, or, a robot might get released on Twitter to learn human language and it turns into a Nazi, which has already happened. And there'll be like this negative kind of bad phase. But development will continue. So just like the digital camera got released, and there was like this negativity around like, why would I pay $9,000 for a thing that takes 2 photos? And they're like, 0.01 megapixels of resolution. The development continues even though the hype has dropped away. And then at some point we reach this law of exponential return. So in computing, it's called Moore's law, which means that the number of transistors that you can fit on a circuit board doubles every 18 months. In photography, I don't know what the name of the law is, but it's basically the same thing. Like the number of megapixels that a camera of a particular size can produce doubles every 18 months. I found this one, excuse me, called after the man who I don't know how to pronounce that. Huang's
Huang,
law,
Huang's law, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
which basically says the amount of power in a GPU chip, which is the stuff that AI runs on, doubles every 18 months. So this thing starts to really kick in. Just like with digital cameras, like, who cares if it doubles every 18 months and goes from 0.01 megapixel to 0.02 megapixel, and then it goes from 0.02 to 0.04, but at some point you go from 4 to 8. And then like 3 years later, you've gone from 4 to 16, which is amazing. And so the same thing is going to happen here, and artificial intelligence is going to get exponentially cooler, exponentially easy to use, and there'll appear to be this kind of explosion, which is similar to the breakthrough. It's been going on in the background the whole time, but in terms of utility, there'll be, like small business accounting specific AI tools that you can use, and they'll be sick. There'll be copywriting specific AI tools that you can use, and they'll be sick. There'll be guitar teacher AI tools, and they'll be sick. There'll be a personal trainer AI. There'll be an AI for everything, and the utility will just skyrocket, and then the hype will catch up. So my main prediction is the fact that this blue line that we're seeing right now, the hype, will drop off, and that does not mean that you should think, AI is dumb. I shouldn't be using AI. There are so many crappy tools out there. We're never going to figure this out. It's just not worth it. Stick with it, because if you are kind of closer to your usage of artificial intelligence being more like this utility line rather than waiting like everyone else does, you will be one of those people, and we say this all the time, who gets so good at using artificial intelligence in marketing that no one will ever catch up to you.
There you go. There you have it.
What do you think about that?
I think it's accurate, and we've seen it over and over again. We've seen it in pretty much everything. We've seen it with Facebook ads. We've seen it with Google ads. We've seen it with crypto. We've seen it
Yes.
a long time. So crypto is a good example of this. So we keep on seeing it. So I do agree.
Crypto is a fantastic example.
Yeah. Cool. Should we move on?
Oh, yeah? I think you've got one more. Yeah, here we go.
What's that?
Oh, I'm just looking at your notes here, just seeing what you're highlighting. You've got one more prediction.
Yeah, I can give I think my last one, which has to do with the other one that I mentioned, which is where does your energy go? I think that one of the things that we are going to be forced to focus on is, besides like being really good at making decisions regarding marketing, it's, your products, like the products that you're actually putting out. And this has to do with the first thing that you said, David, which is, don't put out shitty e-com products or shitty products just because you can. It's actually you need to double down on products. I've been listening a lot to Alex Hormozi lately, and one of the things that he mentioned is that you can dedicate couple months to develop a shitty product and spend the rest of your life marketing it, or you can dedicate a couple years to develop a fantastic product and let it grow by itself, right, through word of mouth and whatnot. And I think that this has to do with the fact that human beings, despite AI, despite the changes in technology, I'm a big believer and a firm believer on mastering the basics, right? And understanding why human beings take action on something, right? Or why they buy something or why they don't. And that has to do with the fundamentals. And that has to do with the fact that things, when it comes to the fundamentals, they take much longer to change. They take hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of years to change because we're hardwired in a specific way. So if we focus our energy on product, I think that's going to be a big breakthrough, as you mentioned, because that will allow us to actually serve the market in a much higher, much more efficient way. And that's the third prediction that I have on this case.
Did you ever read that series of books by Roy Williams, the Wizard of Ads series?
The Wizard of Ads, yes.
Remember that section where he was talking about the whole idea of if you build a better mousetrap, the world will come rushing to your door, and how that was kind of a bit of a fallacy. Remember that chapter?
Yeah, I remember that.
So he said two things. He's like, you can build a better mousetrap, but you need to be really good at marketing it. But if your mousetrap sucks and you're really good at marketing it, you're just going to accelerate the rate that people find out how bad you are.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what's happening. It's like, if you can put out if you can put out a higher volume of crappy work, you will just have a lot of more crappy work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. It's like, now we get to choose what type of work we put out, what type of products we put out. It's going to be much easier, much faster for us. But that means that also the bar gets higher. Because when somebody comes out and say, well, we built this amazing experience with AI, all right, then we will need to get to that level, because people will also get used to this. They will get used to being treated in a really specific way. So, anyways,
that is a good point.
Yeah. What's next?
Last prediction for everyone here. Before we do this, why don't we give a call to action? Let's give two.
All right.
I'm gonna give the first call to action. If you're watching this right now, I would love to hear in the comments section, what do you think is going to happen with artificial intelligence over the next 6 to 12 months? Do you have any predictions you can share with us? Let us know in the comments. And secondly, I mentioned this earlier, we've released a report for Q3 2023 about what's working now in marketing. You can go to www.learnmarketingai.com/report to get yourself access to that. If it's not Q3 at the time you're watching this video, go to that same link. There'll be the most up-to-date version of our report available for you to check out there. And the final prediction for today's show, ChatGPT has already won like the early days of artificial intelligence. What do you reckon about that?
What do you mean? Give me more. What do you mean?
So there are there's like kind of tiers of artificial intelligence tools. So at the top is the stuff that has a lot of money behind it. So there's all the Google tools. I think Adobe's doing a whole bunch of stuff with artificial intelligence.
Yes.
There's ChatGPT, which has Microsoft behind it, and they are furiously serious about this. These are like the top tier 1 sort of artificial intelligence tools. Then below that, you've got kind of tier 2 type stuff. So we're looking at things from well-backed companies like Kajabi. You mentioned Kajabi's AI tool. They have a lot of money. They're going to put a bunch of work into that. ClickUp, they have a artificial intelligence tool, which apparently is pretty damn cool. They have put a lot of work into that. Then there's kind of tier 3, like, the smaller stuff that people are kind of starting to build from the ground up. Like it's not attached to a business like Kajabi or ClickUp yet. And they're just kind of making it from scratch, bootstrapping it themselves. And when I look across all the 3 tiers of this thing, I can see ChatGPT being the clear winner in the future, because these level 3, I'm just making this up now as I'm saying this, but these level 3 apps, they're going to go to ChatGPT and use its infrastructure, and they're going to create their own plugins. We're already seeing this kind of stuff happening right now. The level 2 companies, like let's say Kajabi or ClickUp, if they aren't already yet, they're just going to integrate the ChatGPT infrastructure into like the Kajabi course builder thing, or the ClickUp notes taking thing, or whatever it is that you have. And I just don't see that trend changing. I just don't see people not seeing ChatGPT as kind of like the thing, like from a general public perspective. Like if you look at social media, the big one is Facebook. Most people kind of view it that way. Of course, there are, like young people. I don't know anything about young people, but I assume young people are like, Facebook's for old people. We only use TikTok. Like maybe there's a bunch of people like that, but I feel like the general consumer sentiment is ChatGPT is the one. It's like the Facebook of artificial intelligence. And because of that, people are going to be building with ChatGPT. Because of that, people are going to be making plugins for ChatGPT. Because of that, more consumers are going to be using ChatGPT and degens like us using it for doing the sort of stuff that we do. And I think it's going to become the winner. I feel like this is big. This is not news. It's been around for probably 2 weeks. Isn't that weird that I say like something's been around for 2 weeks and it's not news? Like how quickly things change. But people are talking about like ChatGPT's plugin store is going to become like Apple's app store. Like if you just need something done, you'll just go to the plugin store. And especially now that there is talk of Microsoft putting ChatGPT into Microsoft Office. So if you're typing on a Word doc, you're like, I don't know what to say about this. ChatGPT is right there waiting for it. We spoke about this last time we did this. I just can't see how ChatGPT doesn't become the Facebook of artificial intelligence or the Amazon of artificial intelligence. I think ChatGPT, with the momentum it's got and the stuff that you can do, it has already won the early stages. That's what I think. What say you?
I like it. I think there's some strong competitors coming up, and they will come the TikTok of social media, right? And TikTok starting eating Facebook lunch and starting like getting market share from Facebook. But the good news or the power of being first to market is that now Facebook just launched Threads, and it's eating Elon's Twitters for breakfast, right? And that's the power of being first to market and being in a really strategic place. So I do believe that ChatGPT has, I would say more than ChatGPT, OpenAI, right, as a company, because they can come up with additional stuff that has to do with AI. And yeah, that's why we're betting that will happen. We're bullish onto that. So.
How many, now that we've done 6 predictions, how many of these do you think will actually come true?
0.
You reckon none of them will come true?
No, I mean, predictions are predictions, right? Like if you ask people in the 1980s what the 2000s would look like, we'd probably be in flying cars.
Flying cars, yeah.
Exactly. But the thing is that's the thing with Moore's law, and Huang's law is that the future is so hard to predict because it evolves logarithmically instead of linearly, right? It doesn't even evolve like exponentially. It's a logarithmic equation, right? So, anyways, it's the book by the movie by with Johnny Depp. I think it's called Singularity, maybe. Well, I'm blanking on the name, but it talks about that. It talks about how hard it's the future really to predict. But anyways, we give it our shot. We'll see. We'll see 6 months.
I reckon we'll get 2 right. 2 out of 6.
All right, it's not a bad.
And I reckon 2 of them will be mine.
Yeah, 30% is not bad. It's pretty good.
That's funny. All right, well, thank you for sharing your ideas today, sir. If you are watching this in the future, go to that link, www.learnmarketingai.com/report. Get our quarterly report. It'll help you out. And we will see you on the next episode of That AI Marketing Show.
See you, everyone.